Hello and welcome to Big Deal. As corporate India grapples with the second wave of COVID-19 situation in the country, the biggest challenge that is faced in front of the corporates is business continuity along with employee safety. How are some of the business houses really tackling this particular situation? We have got a panel of experts joining us from corporate India to discuss exactly that. Let me welcome on Big Deal. We have with us Sanjeev Krishan of PwC. We have with us Ashish Bhandari from Thermax. Also welcoming on the show Shrivar Kheruka from Borosil Limited and Chandar Agarwal from TCI Express. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on CNBC TV18. Shrivar, I want to begin with you because the steps and the policy that Borosil really adopted very recently of taking care of the employees of the company, especially by compensating the deceased employees for 2 years and also taking care of the education of their children till graduation, really was accepted very well and became a big talking point. Tell us about this policy and how did you come up with it?
Well, thanks for having me on the show. We've been looking for the last 3 weeks. I think all of our WhatsApp chats have been filled with people needing a bed or oxygen or medication, and we've had the unfortunate incidents of losing parents or loved ones, and in our case, even a couple of employees have passed away. So there was a sense of fear amongst the people at large. This was never stated, but it was clearly palpable. And whenever I would speak with my people, as I do very often every day, there was a clear, let's call it fear psychosis that was pervasive across all our plants, our offices. And I think the underlying question, although not stated, was what happens to my family if I pass away? And this wave, the second wave, we have seen much younger people being hospitalized, as well as, unfortunately passing away. So I think it was incumbent to change the narrative a little bit. And as a leadership team, we got together to discuss what we could do to, give some positivity to our people. And that's the reason we came up with this policy that if unfortunately any employee passes away, we would take care of the family for 2 years in terms of their full salary for 2 years, as well as educate their children up to graduation so that their children could then become at least, able to get a job and take care of the family going forward.
Right, great move, and it's already exemplary, Shrivar, I must state, because today only Muthoot Finance also announced a similar policy. And while the COVID-19 situation, as we know now, is no more temporary, we are already talking about a third wave while sitting in the second wave of this particular pandemic. A clear policy framework needs to be brought about by each of the companies, and that's something that has clearly come out in the last few days with several developments. A one-time donation is one thing, but a company policy with regards to employee is another. But I want to understand one more thing, Shrivar, before I get other panelists also to speak about their efforts. I want to understand what was the kind of response that you got from employees, and was working much easier and much more peaceful in these difficult times because of these policy decisions?
Frankly, the response was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. We did not expect it. We actually thought it was just the right thing to do. And, we had a town hall meeting on Zoom, and we announced this. And I think we had about 400 of our employees on that call. And I think we got maybe 250 or 300 messages on the Zoom chat itself, thanking us. And there was lots of emails and messages later that they had not anticipated this, and they felt a lot more relieved. The feedback I've got later in the last few days has been there's a sense of little bit of relief that's washed over the people that, yes, the company will take care of them or their families if something unfortunate happens. And I'm very pleased that we've got the kind of response we did. I think it's a huge positive.
All right. So let me take it straight across to another then company from the infrastructure space, and Ashish Bhandari is also on the panel. Ashish, tell us about your efforts. The biggest challenge of the last lockdown and the last wave was the migrant workers situation. In fact, the entire country really saw the situation at that time. For you this time, what have been the lessons from the last lockdown to now, and have we managed to handle the situation better in the second wave?
Thank you very much, Nisha, for having me on the panel and for the question as well. What happened with the migrants after the first COVID wave was more than a business crisis, a humanitarian crisis. Yeah, the pictures and the experiences that many of those individuals had to go through was completely heartrending. So even between the two COVID waves, we worked with the Ajivika Foundation to understand how is it that our ecosystem, which is Thermax, our sub-suppliers, their sub-suppliers, our vendors, how do we treat migrant workers? What is the condition of the laborers? And so then we worked on a list of things that were very, very actionable. Things like making sure that wherever they are living, there are enough restrooms, there is segregation that is possible. Women have all the support that is needed across the entire system, making sure that we spend on cleanliness, on training, on variety of different things. So we put all of that in place between the first and the second waves. And we have got quite a bit more to do, in our opinion, to make sure that our laborers overall, whether we are employing them, our subcontractors are employing them, are taken well care of. Specific to the second wave, in a couple of our plants, we have hired third-party facilities. In fact, close to Sherwell, we have a whole marriage hall that we have taken over, providing accommodation to 200 plus of our laborers that are working out there, providing food packets so that there's no constraint on availability of food. And most importantly, focusing on training, educating them, the importance of vaccines. Of course, when vaccines do become available to corporates, we would want them to be accessible, not just to our employees, but to everyone that works with Thermax in any capacity. And then focusing on education, talking to them about how we will take care of them. Leaving and going back actually increases the rate of infection, and doing everything we can to support that system. Thanks, Nisha.
Right. So hopefully hopefully we have handled that situation much better. And you spoke about vaccines, and that is on top of the mind of the entire country right now. And as soon as the states really procure that vaccine, that will be very, very important, and that's where TCI Express can also play a big role. So Chandar, help us understand. You have a big setup of logistics. People movement is an important part. How are you tackling the situation, and also what could be the role that you can play in the vaccination drive of the country?
So from last year, when the lockdown was announced, there was almost like a build-up of fear that happened and across the country, and the biggest fear was the fear of the unknown. So what we did was, in our sorting centers that we have across the country, and in all our facilities, about 60 of them, we created an isolation room, where in case if anybody got positive, they would be moved to that location versus them going to their village. Now, this kind of like developed, it kind of created a stickiness for the employees to stay and not to go anywhere. But the ones who actually left also, when they came back, we took them back on the payroll. One thing that we did that different from the other logistics companies is that we paid the salaries to each and every employee. We did not deduct anything, even though there was no business in quarter one. We gave out bonuses during the mid-year, and we gave an increment of about 13% for last year performance. So this kind of really motivated the employees. Now, one of the most difficult things was like the trucks being stranded on the highways. So we used our chain of offices across the country, about 900 of them, to bring these trucks back to the location and also cater to the drivers, in case they had any sort of question or they wanted some sort of a support, we would provide that. With that saying, this year we have announced free vaccination to all our employees, and a large chunk of our employees have already been vaccinated. And I think what one of the most important things that we did also was to create a human blockchain responsible for the safety and well-being of all our employees, attached, to our subsets, subunits. So this created that system of, cooperation and sense of belonging, which got the company going, in the right direction. And we have created a war room where we get reports on daily basis as to what's happening across India, which we created last year, and that is going to continue for this year as well. So basically, it's employees supporting employees, the nation, the community. So it all it comes in together.
Right. So yes, especially the frontline workers and people have kept the economy running even in difficult times, because livelihood is one thing that we wouldn't have really managed with if that was all. Right. All right. Let me take it to Sanjeev. Sanjeev, quickly, can you tell me work from home challenges? How do you see that?
I hope all of yours can stay safe. So work from home, we have sort of experienced that in the first wave itself, and now we are sort of doing it again. Honestly, we never really came back to office in the real sense of the term. I think what has really kept us going is all the investments that one made in cloud. And we use a number of those applications, and that has really made sure that we continue to sort of service our clients during this very tough period. But yes, there are challenges from work from home. The first and foremost is collaboration. As a professional services firm, at some level, we actually thrive by the collaboration that we have when people meet each other and they ideate with each other and, try and solve complex problems for our clients. Now, that ideation was not happening because we were not meeting in person. So just getting out of the mindset that we can collaborate in a virtual world was the first thing. And I think that sort of took some doing. I would say that one has become more adept to doing that at this point in time. So that was the first thing. I think the second thing really has been I would say the mental well-being aspect, because when you work from home for a very long period of time, it could be a bit challenging. You're not used to that. First of all, you're not used to that. Many of our people were living all by themselves, and it could be unnerving because they actually live in other towns and they come to another city to work. So it could be very, very hard. That was the other challenge. And that's the other aspect that we focused on, getting various experts to talk to our people, just making sure that they are motivated. And in some ways, even in the second wave, I would say, I think the biggest thing for us really has been to take care of the physical and mental well-being of these people as people continue to work from home in these very, very challenging environments. So I would say that those two aspects stand out for me.
Right. Thanks, Sanjeev, for that. Yes, work from home has had its own set of challenges. With that, we'll slip into a short breather, and Big Deal continues on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching Big Deal. Let's take it to Thermax. Ashish, how are you dealing with the oxygen shortage situation?
Hi, Nisha. So, look, I think first thing, we all have to be absolutely clear that lives come first. So right when the call for oxygen came, across all of our plants, we turned over all of our oxygen supplies, whatever we had, to the local authorities, to the government. What was good, though, was how creatively the team came back and found alternate solutions. So wherever we could, we shifted to plasma cutters, we bought new equipment off the shelf, whatever was available. We moved to graphite electrodes, we moved to PNG and propane where we can. And so we have now working at about 75% of our normal capacity, finding a way to continue operations without oxygen. But I would say that we can do that for possibly rest of May. But sometime over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we would like to see oxygen being to come back to the industry, both literally and figuratively, so that we can meet the demand that we have, especially from our international customers.
Right. So, Ashish, that's a situation that the whole corporate world is, grappling with right now. But Chandan, what about the other issues that you're facing? What needs re-strategization right now?
So I think one of the most comprehensive things that needs to be done and laid out by the government is the vaccine distribution. They haven't really given it to private players, and it's still they are controlling the distribution, and they define where it's needed and where it's not needed. So I think that is something which to get to the right person at the right time would be very essential that the government decides and plans it out. So we have been doing the same thing. We've been working with some of the government agencies and distributing the vaccinations down to the village level. But unfortunately, the clear roadmap as to when and how much, all that data is not given beforehand by the government. So nevertheless, wherever is required, we move our cold chain trucks, we move our regular vehicles straight down to the village level where it's required to be distributed.
Right. So difficult situation there. Sanjeev, how are you seeing various sectors you interact with dealing with this?
So I think first of all, I must say that it's really been a community response. I think everybody has come to the aid of everybody. Just what Ashish said. I think first of all, I must say that it's very creditable that everybody has come to sort of support each other, and it's really been a community response over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Different sectors are obviously dealing with it in different ways. I mean, we are a 15,000 people strong organization, and we are really a people organization. Unless our people are safe, we can't do anything. So I think the focus has to be on people's physical well-being, and we have got volunteer care groups across each major city focusing on trying to get whatever medication we can, helping them find hospital beds. There are so much information on WhatsApp group, but we needed one repository. So I think, there are these volunteer care groups which are trying to get medicines, etc., availability, letting them know where the oxygen is, etc., is, and whatever else they need. Like many other organizations, we would be focusing on the vaccination as well. I mean, once things become a bit clearer. So for us, it's been like that. But I think everybody has to look at their own ways. I mean, if you look at a manufacturing organization, they, on the safety at the shop floor is also very, very critical. I mean, how do you get people to come in a staggered way? I mean, what is the kind of pre-shift screening that you do? I mean, how do you get automation in making sure there is deep cleaning before people come into the workshops? And that is what we've been hearing from the industrial clients, for instance. You talk about some of the financial services clients. I mean, just going back to working from home and not having any congregation of people. And most importantly, when you look at the wider services segment, the impact that it is having on the informal sector, and what is the kind of response we responsible businesses could have for this segment, the informal segment, which is really suffering, and you can see the unemployment levels going up, I think is going to be the next challenge, and next also an opportunity that I think we as businesses would have. So I think different sectors are looking at it differently, but I do believe, and I would like to reiterate that point, that there is going to be some amount of challenge as a society, and as responsible businesses, there is enough and more for us to do in times to come, Nisha.
All right, Srivar, final word to you. What lies ahead? Challenges and re-strategizing.
So as entrepreneurs, I think our only currency that we can afford to deal with is hope. And I have a hope that we will get over this. And that hope has to center around vaccines. And, as a company, we have not only announced free vaccines for our employees, but also their families. And we will be happy to pay for the vaccines as well, at the moment we get our hands on them. So I think the vaccination is the number one step out of this current situation that we are in. And I believe I agree with the other panelists here that when it comes to responsibility, I think corporate India has to step up and bear its fair share of the responsibility to restore society, to restore the people who work for us, to a reasonable level back again. And I'm very hopeful that this will happen. So on both accounts, on the vaccination count as well as getting out of this, I think corporate India will step up and will help the country move ahead. And obviously, the government will do its part, but we have to step up as well. So that's my fervent desire.
All right, and all the best to all of you. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on Big Deal. Thanks so much.